Hey, it's Chris Chico, and I wanted to do a quick video on market evaluation. Now, I get a lot of questions about this, and so I figured, why don't I just do a video kind of explaining to you what criteria you should use, at least in my opinion, in order to determine if a market is valid or not, or a market that you should go into. It used to be that in the past I would, suggest to people to look at trends in a particular market area and whether or not the market was going up or was going down, et cetera, et cetera. And that was a lot of, actually, I thought created a lot more confusion than it helped. So the information I'm going to give you here is going to be about what specific items I look for when determining if a market is one that I'm going to try and go into and try to, do some virtual wholesaling. And the only thing I would say is that this applies to everywhere. The only markets that I know that students have always had a personal challenge with is in the higher price markets, markets such as California, where the prices of the properties are much higher. That's not to say that you're not going to be able to do deals in those markets. However, I found that you do have to spend a lot more money in marketing in order to get more leads because the response rates are not as high. And so, when starting out brand new, it's a little bit more difficult. The other markets that I know students have had challenges with have been like New York, for example, again, because of the high prices. So that's not to say you can't do any deals, and I'm sure there's people out there that are doing deals, but I'm just telling you from my experience and listening to students and getting comments, it's a common theme that I see with the Northeast and those higher price markets where they have a difficult time with. So as far as market evaluation, I really only look at a couple different things. So I look at how many investor buyers are in a particular market and how many of them are actively buying properties. And so what we do is we do a search to see for single family, for duplex, for triplex, and for quads. And that all falls within the range of single family residential. And we want to see how many investor buyers have purchased properties in that market in the last 4 months. We prefer a minimum of 300 buyers, but prefer 500 or more. So, and again, that depends on how big the area is. So if you're in a big county, perhaps let's say you're in Texas, then obviously that is going to you're going to have a lot more buyers in that. But you want to just have a bare minimum number of investor buyers, and the investor buyers are really absentee owners. So anyone who is an absentee owner that bought the property in the last 4 months, that's who you're going after. Now, on the other side, you want to be able to make sure that you have enough sellers to work with in that particular area. So it's the same criteria for buyers, except that you're going to target people that have owned the property for 10 years or more. So with the buyers, we target people that have just bought a property less than 4 months ago, or you could do 6 months, but no more than 6 months. With owners, you're looking for anyone that has owned the property for 10 years or more. So what you want to do is you want to be able to know that, let's say, as an example, you do a search, you pick a market, you do a search, and you get 500 buyers. You're like, okay, that's great. And let's say you do the same search in the same market, except now you put in that you want them to own the property at least 10 years or more. And a couple of different scenarios. Let's say you get a market and says, you know what, we have 4,000 of these records when you do that search. Well, that's great. That's a great number of records. What if you do a search and it says 100 records or 200 records? So if you have a situation where you search for that, to see how many seller records there are, and you have a very, very low number, typically it means there's a problem with the county and how they interact their data with the source that you're using to search it. And so it means that it may not be a viable market. It doesn't mean that they are not sellers that have owned the property 10 years or more, but it may be a situation where you're not going to be able to get that information through say if you're using ListSource or RealQuest to be able to do that. Now you may be able to go directly to the Public Records Department and see if they can get that data for you. However, I found that typically it's a bit of a pain and they want to charge you a lot of money for it. So an example, now this here, to do all these searches, I recommend you use listsource.com. You get a free account. You can get a free account with ListSource, and you can search as far as to purchase records from ListSource. Once you decide on the market, you decide I'm going to send some mail, some direct mail to buyers and sellers. Then at that point, then you want to get, if you're a customer, you want to get an account through our rep because that's going to give you discount pricing. If you go on the website, you just create an account. The pricing on that account is typically 15 cents, 17 cents a record. Whereas if you contact our contact there as a customer, then it's about 7 to 8 cents a record. So you'll save a significant amount of money. So let me do this. Let me just really quickly give you a couple of different scenarios. So let's say that, and the buyers is pretty self-explanatory because you're going to have at least a minimum of 300 buyers. But let's say that, you might, if you have, say, a search that comes up and it says that it could only come up with 500, sellers, then that typically means that is a data problem, right? As I discussed. Let's say you get 2,000 sellers that comes up. That's good, but it's not great. And it's not great because in the beginning, when you don't have a high budget, then it's great because you don't have that many, you're not going to be able to send that much mail, but you can eat up that 2,000 mailers, really quickly. If you want to do any sort of volume, it's going to be tough if you only have a very limited number of sellers in that market. Ideally, for me, I like to see 4,000 or more available sellers in a particular market that I know that now I can mail those 4,000 names, and then I can add maybe evictions, probate. Now, I'm not editing this video, so you might hear an airplane. I think that's an airplane. So you'll add more stuff to that for lead generation purposes, but so really my number is 4,000 records you want at a minimum. So I wanted to just quickly create this video. I get a lot of questions about this all the time. If you have any additional questions or maybe you want a clarification about this, then just go ahead and post your comments below this video on the blog, and I'll come back in a day or so, and I'll come back and I'll answer whatever questions perhaps you have about this. Thanks again for visiting, and this is Cris Chico.